Good evening and welcome to the New Athens. You pandemic with the tools to create a new world. The New Athens, the blockchain think tank, brings you those tools to understand the chaos swirling around us and the forum to debate how a new generation will take control from the Govidiots currently mismanaging our nation and our world with a breakaway civilization leaving us behind. Watch our Friday Night Lights live stream from the bunker on the New Athens YouTube channel for the best that is thought and said on the issues of the day. Ask not what the New Athens can do for you. Ask what you can do for the New Athens. If you like it, leave a like. If you like the content, please subscribe and share. I'm Lorenzo Mefsud, founder of the New Athens. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Good evening, and welcome to the New Athens live here from the bunker on this Friday, the 12th of June, 2020. I'm Lorenzo Mefsud, founder of the New Athens.
We are at the forefront of a crisis. Our planet.
Tonight, we have Dan Kalupski, our resident analyst, legal, geopolitical, historical from the LSE, and just finished a law degree. So congrats, Dan. Also, we have a live studio audience of some friends of the show. Oliver Nelkin is here as ever, producing Monitor Media. And tonight we bring you a new hashtag, Fahrenheit 451. Now that's a Ray Bradbury novel, which you should definitely read. It's about firemen in a dystopian future whose task is to burn books, to delete culture, and to allow the ignorance of bliss, as Orwell would say, allow people to not have the weight of culture on their shoulders. Firemen in this notion are men who don't put out fires, they start fires. And the fires are of knowledge, of understanding of books, of ancient things, and of people's ability to think for themselves, because in this dystopian future that Ray Bradbury imagines, it's easier not to think. It's easier not to think for yourself, and it's easier just to download into you the kind of constant present that Orwell also spoke of in 1984. And so this is a reflection, we believe here at the New Athens, of the times that we're living in at the moment. We're seeing a run of crises in 2020, and tonight's also about prediction markets. Now, back in sort of mid-April, we started really hammer and tongs producing you live streams here from the bunker to understand some of the swirling chaos that's disturbing our society, our life, and our civilization at the moment. And we came up with a model to understand some of those oncoming crises, and we made a prediction. And Oliver, if you share my screen, we have here. The model? We have the model. This is the model. This is the four horsemen of the apocalypse. By what is it, Suvorov?
You said model would be like a regression analysis.
So this is a regression analysis in the form of a Russian painting. So we entitled one of our episodes hashtag the four horsemen of the Chipocalypse, and we detailed the different kinds during the lockdown for COVID 1984, the different kinds of crises that tend to come about when you have a kind of crisis of confidence in your civilization. And you can see in the book of John of Revelation, which this is an illustration of, the last book of the Bible, this is the apocalypse. This is the four horsemen of the apocalypse. You have death, you have famine, you have war, and you have pestilence, and you have war. Now, we were able to start bracketing some of the problems that we're facing inside these four buckets, these four horsemen, as a means of kind of becoming a bit more resilient and trying to plan beyond the kind of BBC government download of what's happening in the nation and in the world right now. We have this opportunity as I think key workers, essential workers, independent journalists, to provide that analysis of current affairs, and that's what we've been doing for many weeks now, and we hope it's been informative and helped negotiate some of these problems. Now, we identified firstly pestilence. That death is our first horseman, as you can see to the left of this frame, and that was a representation in our understanding of COVID-19, this new plague, this new disease. Then we have preceding horsemen, which in the narrative of the Book of Revelation bring us more and more plague, more and more dolor and despair through different disasters that happen. You can see this disaster happening in the image before us. There's a battle, the city is falling, the Lamb of God is at the top, and we're seeing Judgment Day upon us. And so the prediction that we made was about preppers, and was about the potential for the breakdown in civil order. And actually, despite not being directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic plague illness scenario, now we're actually experiencing another phase of this social breakdown, which we've seen in the past few weeks across the Western world. The final horseman, as we identified, was this notion of war, as you see the king mounted as an archer. And we've been in our news media, in our public discourse, only talking about internal problems, and there's a geopolitical shift to do with the rise of China and the rise of a bipolar world with China then facing America. And if as we see we're mired in the other three horsemen, we may miss a power grab on a geopolitical stage. And I know Dan is busy at the moment finishing off a film of ours that we're making as a primer, 10-minute primer on geopolitics from 1815 to present. And we look at essentially an exchange of great powers. So after the fall of Napoleon at Waterloo in 1815, we have the great powers of Britain and Russia. And then as the British Empire declines, we have a competition throughout the 19th century. We have a competition in the 20th century. The baton from Britain is passed to America, and we have a bipolar world of Russia and America. And then as the Soviet Union falls in 1991, we move to the geopolitics of today, and we look at the rise of China versus America, and that's where we're at, and we're at a crisis point at the moment. So Dan, you just come out of some exams. I know you're looking to get out of that headspace. Where do you see us in this procession of horsemen, and where do you see us in geopolitics right now?
We are in probably, I don't know, what's the horse of disease?
Yeah. So the first one is death is the horse of disease. The second is famine. The horseman of social breakdown. And I think we're kind of in that right now.
I don't know. I mean, in this country, I don't see any social breakdown. Do you?
Well, we've had now riots for a few weeks over the weekends. We've had campaigns against statuary, and there's still an active Roads Must Fall campaign in Oxford.
Oh yeah, my friend is kind of like involved in that.
How is that?
I don't want to comment, but I doubt she'll watch the show. Do you think roads should fall?
No. What we can see in this new crisis, these crises are managed in the media landscape and in the geopolitical landscape. And what we see at the moment is an end to the lockdown. And the key event this year is going to be the November Trump second term election. And what we saw was a concerted attempt by what we might call the deep state party, what Eisenhower would have called the military-industrial complex, the party of the status quo, trying to shut down the American economy and really put an end to the gains that had been made on the stock market and in employment in America in Trump's first term. That lockdown has now, which has the effect has been to tank the American economy, has now come to a halt in summer.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea was that we were going to shut down the economy until November.
We're having a call from the audience.
Yeah, we're having a call from the, but she's just coming here, so I'm just going to send the address. Blah, blah, blah. So
We're very professional.
so yes, where were we? Yeah, so what we're seeing is there needs to be another crisis, right? We need to get on with another crisis, and the next crisis is
So you're
breakdown.
for a revolution over evolution. You think that society should be burned to the ground and rebuild afresh?
No, not at all.
No.
Not at all. I think the problem that we've experienced in our generation has been not building things for ourselves. We discussed in many episodes now, whether it's Philip Firsov looking at art, looking at squatting, looking at different modes of life in a society, and looking at freeing yourself of time pressure so you can do creative acts. And
This kind of reminds me of the film
life.
Fight Club.
Yeah,
because I feel that my generation and your generation and just we're so emasculated.
Yeah,
we're not men in the traditional sense.
No, absolutely.
And that absolutely kills us.
So
to be born into a world where you need to have a desk job and you know what have we evolved into?
Yes.
Where our traditional roles are being challenged. I mean, what is it to be a man these days in the West?
Well, in our current kind of educational plan, and the reason I'm focusing on education is we're setting up this new blockchain university project with the New Athens to bring decentralized education and to bring a new knowledge standard currency to allow people to exchange knowledge and understanding amongst one another, educate one another, and form new startups, form new entrepreneurship off the back of that education. What you see in our generation has been, we've done loads of exams, as you've just done today. We've jumped through hoops in educational institutions to get into a corporate existence, to get into a corporate role, which then saps us of our time in exchange for paying rent and hopefully a mortgage, so we've exchanged all of our time.
Look forward to a mortgage. That's like, wow.
Yeah, no, it's like that's your reach goal.
One day I can sell myself to a house,
Yeah, well, it's a mortgage, death bond. It's in the etymology. It means mort means death, and gage means bond. So you're bonded to your death, to this house, which is then your anchor in the social reality of subscribing to a set of actions, which then you need to devote your time.
It'd be great if you buy a mortgage. You get a mortgage and then the value of the house depreciates.
Yes.
So you're paying off something which is not even the value of your house. Now that's sad.
That is sad, and we saw that in the 2008 crash. We saw it in the 80s across Britain, and so where do we go from here? So the planning phase, to my mind here in the blockchain think tank here at the New Athens, is try and be anti-fragile, try and gain some resilience towards these four horsemen and the consequences of ignoring them, which is what we're doing now. We're kind of allowing media institutions to beat the drum of there's one crisis and there's another crisis that comes on top of it, which will then push us towards an election in November in America, which, as we can see, political events in America are now spilling over into Britain, are now spilling over across the Atlantic. And we really have become the kind of airstrip one of Orwell, where we're just like an outworking of America at the moment. So we've got to be involved in American politics to understand what's happening in our own reality, right?
Well, I think the thing about American politics is they're regional, right? It is important that I think it's important to realize more prudent Americans understand politics on a state and a municipal basis.
Yeah.
And there's always like this excitement about the presidential election. But what really are the Americans voting for in presidential elections? It's just sort of like the moral tone of their country. But, in terms of foreign policy, in terms of perhaps some healthcare policy, but they realize that the presidency has a very limited scope on domestic affairs.
Yes.
So most Americans are, if they really are engaged in politics, it's on a more local level.
Okay. You've got elected judges, you've got elected sheriffs, and you have now states deploying. Different lockdowns. You have then a national state of emergency that's been declared from Washington, but that's come after each of the 50 states declared a state of emergency in relation to COVID-19 before. And so yeah, you're right. There's this balkanization of the states' rights and that kind of state politics.
I'm for state rights.
You're a Jeffersonian.
I'm for state rights because I think that that's the only way we can actually ban guns and achieve universal health care. Is if, for example, the GDP of New York City exceeds that of the Netherlands.
Yes.
But the city cannot fund its own healthcare service because of the complicated system to do with the fact that the governor has more authority over the mayor in the political hierarchy. But New York City, its metropolitan area, is not camped to one state. It goes out into New Jersey and Connecticut, really, and to some extent Pennsylvania. Unlike California, which is like a very wealthy state, which can achieve much more because it's all within one state. And if you have the blue states, which I think will lead the way in terms of, copying European politics to some extent, they're going to, because of their economic weight, they're going to force the rest of the country into it. But I don't think that we should look at a liberal kind of president or like a figure like Bernie Sanders, who's going to, that's just the moral tone of the country, essentially, Obama and so on, because you really can't get these big programs through unless you bargain foreign policy towards domestic policy.
The test will be Trump's infrastructure bill in his second term. Like if he can pass a big infrastructure bill in the House and in the Senate and retool the Rust Belt for factories to return and for industry to return from China, that will be the big test of what the presidency is actually capable of in a campaigning presidency.
Yeah.
Because, as you say, Obama, Bush, Clinton, these are middle managers in the political pyramid. Trump is creating his own political pyramid. He's saying, okay, I am now the executive function. And he, what you saw with Obama is he discovered executive orders partway through his second term. And then he said, okay, I don't control the House, I don't control the Senate, but I can still write the executive orders. Of course, they all expire when he leaves office. Trump then came to office, okay, I can do executive orders to get my legislative agenda not passed in the House, but executed by the executive and its agencies. And so what you're seeing in the sort of Trump campaigning presidency, as opposed to the middle manager presidency of the previous 3 or 4 presidents, is an attempt to do exactly that, to not just give a moral tone to the nation, as you say, but to enact certain changes to the economic structure of where are the jobs, which companies are allowed to interact with China, on what basis? Are they American companies making products in America to sell to Americans, or are they international corporations which will be put behind his Great Wall of tariffs if they manufacture abroad? You've also seen then a geopolitical move, as we were discussing before, with India and Trump, with the Namaste Trump event in India just before the lockdown, which essentially was this notion of, well, we'll replace China with factories in China with factories in India, as they all become passported in. But then you've got the South China Sea issue around Taiwan and around the South China Sea islands, where China's then trying to use its navy to block trade between India and the Pacific coast of the United States. So I think that really speaks to somewhere our video
go through the
goes.
Suez, I guess, and
go the other way around.
Yeah,
use the rimland the other way.
Yeah, go to the Atlantic.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. So Another topic that we've been looking at a great deal in the past week has been censorship, and especially censorship from social media platforms. Now, as we saw with the censorship of Alex Jones of YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook early last year, I believe it was. We then saw Joe Rogan then moving the conversation industry to Spotify, which is going to start on September the 1st, and Spotify going to build him a video platform. He's now valued the long form internet conversation industry at $100 million at the top end of that market by inking this contract with Spotify to provide a video platform that's outside of YouTube, that's outside of the big tech censorship cordon. And we're seeing now the big tech entities try more and more to corral their control over content, and we've seen the front line of it today. So in posting the advert for this live stream, we put up an image, and if you share the screen, Oliver. So this is a really fascinating spider diagram of the crisis that we're currently facing by a stunning level of visual and visual and cognitive intelligence coming together into a kind of outworking of some of the topics that we've been discussing piecemeal. And I think we can use some of this structuring that's been done in this diagram to then look further into the connections between these various topics that we've been discussing. We had our kind of 4 buckets of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and now we can drill further into detail here. What was very interesting though was that on our New Athens Instagram stories, we received a notification. I'm going to find it now, whereby I'll find the 2. Here we go. I'm just going to share them, and then we'll get them in the screen. So one moment. Let me do that. And then we do that. And then we do that. Okay. So one. Here we go. Here and there. Okay. So this was the ad we put up on the Instagram stories for the New Athens, which you come and subscribe to between episodes. We put a lot of content there, and so which was this diagram. Now, what was really fascinating about that was that the Instagram stories posts through into the New Athens Facebook page stories, and on the Facebook page we then received and it's quite an ordinary ad, right? It's a picture of a like a spider diagram, and then tonight we've got a live stream to talk about it, and there's a link, and we received this notification from Facebook. Instagram, the New Athens' post goes against our community standards on misinformation that could cause physical harm. Note, physical harm. Only the people who manage the New Athens can see this post, so they've then censored the post, and so they put another post back on Instagram to say, well, look at what's been censored tonight, and we're presenting it here now. But it was very interesting that they chose physical harm as the rubric under the terms and conditions which they've given as the reasoning behind why they've banned it from being viewed. Only on both platforms, Instagram and Facebook, are owned by the Facebook Corporation, owned by Mark Zuckerberg, and yet one censors this picture and one hasn't, which was quite intriguing. So then we see the picture. I mean, in what way this picture could cause physical harm is going to be quite intriguing to then drill into the detail. But we've also had, from a very good friend of the show, a Google memo today just this evening come in actually, which is then taking this to another level, on the level of the developers. So this is an email received by a good friend of the show from the Google Play Store, with reference to an app that's being put in that Google Play Store. So now we got Instagram and Facebook and Google, and we've already touched on some of the other social media platforms. And so here is this email that's been sent with some very sinister terms. Hello, Google Play developer. We're continually striving to make Google Play a positive experience for both our developers and our users. For this reason, we've introduced the following changes to the developer distribution agreement. This is the long terms and conditions that you as an app maker sign up to when you post your app to the Play Store. We added the definition of, quote, Play Console. The Play Console is available as an app to developers. There's some sort of wallpaper here, but there's some key terms. We've updated the terms and a support article to remove, quote, for the marketing of, and inserted, quote, to make your products available in Google Play. So that's saying that they're not going to promote your product, they're just going to post it. So they're not necessarily going to make any undertaking to you that they're going to push traffic to the page of your app. The next term, we added that the developers will receive notice of revisions to the service fee as provided in section 15. We deleted wording regarding enforcement actions Google can take when a developer fails to comply with the DDA. We deleted wording regarding product ratings that are out of date and replaced with more detailed description of quality factors that appear in developer policies. This is all kind of wallpaper. We deleted the phrase "in its sole." Here we go. This is the important section, the one which we were then interpreting in a legal sense here tonight. We deleted the phrase, quote, in its sole discretion in 2 places and added examples of what may include a, quote, adverse impact warranting suspension of a developer or a product. So what we're seeing here on the developer side of the fence, making apps, is this penumbra of what we're calling off-platform activity, what Facebook now calls, in its terms and conditions, off-platform activity. So they have been harvesting your data since you signed up, possibly even before, if you signed up relatively recently. But what they've tried to achieve now is to gain consent for you to permission them as part of the terms of service to monitor your activities in the internet, in the world, in other social media platforms. As we saw tonight, there's a passporting between them, partly because they're owned by the same entities, but partly because they're now trying to create a web of social credit. This is the Chinese social credit system slowly coalescing into having a single point of failure for you. So you have a single web identity. You can't hide behind a Bitcoin address. You can't hide behind the anonymity of a message board. You can't have an alias. You can't have multiple email addresses. You can't sustain multiple identities. People for years have been having their sort of second and third Facebook profiles and so on shut down to try to collapse the internet identity with the personal identity. And this is where the Chinese social credit system really turns social media into a form of control. And what we're seeing now arrive on these shores through these very, very minor legal reinterpretations of terms like in its sole discretion. So what this is you've published an app on the Google Play Store and you warrant to the Google Play authority that you are going to play nice. And they have terms and conditions in their contract that detail what playing nice is. Now, before Google has reserved the right in its sole discretion, i.e., for whatever reason it wants, to deregister your app that you've paid to have listed. Now, what they're switching that to is now a notion of reputational damage. So what they're saying is instead of why ever we want to ban you, we need to then drill it down. So we're drilling it down into our reputation as Google may be impacted by your actions either within the Play Store or or in your app or off platform, and we're going to reserve the right to measure your reputation against ours, and then reserve the right to rescind your service, not for any specific claim, but for this nebulous notion of adverse impact. And so this is what we've seen across social media platforms, with social media deplatforming, and this is now joining up into a web of censorship, which then we come back to our diagram that we found that's so informative and brings together in a web some of these concerns that we've had in the past few months, and we've been trying to plot slowly. So one channel, other YouTube channel that I'd like to recommend at this point, we've featured her on the on the New Athens live stream before, is called The Amazing Polly. She goes as a YouTube channel, she goes into great detail in exactly this format, looking at the connection between Dan, can you just take that? Dan, just take that. No, he's probably here. So the phone's on. What we can see here is then the center point of this diagram is COVID 5G. Now, we believe, some of our analysts believe here at the New Athens, that the reason why this post was banned off the Facebook stories was because of the term 5G in this center point, and the idea of allying together the pandemic disease, the COVID-1984, and the 5G rollout. Now, from here, how do we interpret this? So there's we have down the left-hand side of our diagram a timeline of socio-political movements from 1913 down to the future, like with the present listed as the 4th of April 2020, sort of 80% of the way down our first page. And I'm just going to put this file into the chat on the YouTube, so you can follow along. Now, how do we do that? We'll have a look here. Yeah, I'll do it in a second. So to go back to the diagram, what we see is the coming together of what we might call a deep state new world order program for taking the Chinese social credit system and bringing it into the West, and oh, okay, well, it's fine, she'll work it out. She rings, well, she'll come in, but blah, 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 great. So we have then the insertion of the Chinese social credit system into the West, using this crisis, using this pandemic as this plandemic, as we see from the documentary that again was censored off of all the social media platforms, and then was decentralized and people are uploading it. 25-minute documentary. I'll leave the link in the chat. It's very informative on some of the history behind Dr. Fauci, who's the head of the CDC, as we see here, just above the center of our diagram. So we have COVID 5G. And then we have its description as a novel bio AI weapon, global false flag pandemic. So that's our kind of starting point. And then immediately above that we have Gates.
What do you think the audience would think about this? Maybe ask an audience. What do you think about
this? Yes. So whenever you however far we go through this diagram and our discussion tonight, please contact us on the open Zoom, the open Zoom meeting room that we have. There's also a WhatsApp phone to call into if you have any questions or you want to participate in the discussion. And so we've got Zoom video in right now. I can show you the room here. So we have this channel now open. So if you can come on audio or video from around the world, we have foreign correspondents often calling in, and we'd be glad to have you on the video chat. Then we have the chat in the YouTube. You have a live chat in the YouTube where you can post questions or comments, and there's also a WhatsApp number to call or text. So that's it. Yeah, so as a first point, as I go through this, is the first question, as Ollie says, what do you make of where we are today? I mean, I'd be very interested to hear as we go through exactly where you're at in terms of negotiating the current crisis. Elizabeth.
Oh, I was going to say, we're going to take a short break and see you all back at 10 o'clock, which is 7 minutes time.
Yes, that could make sense.
Don't tune out. We'll be back. But first, we're going to play the music.
Ah.
In a minute. It'll just be like, break music.
Yeah. Okay, ready? It's perfect.
Original composition, everyone. From Oliver Nelson of Mornington Media.
This is like perfect.
Improvise.
Yeah. Do I press 1 on his laptop?
Can I smoke this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I answered for
House.
him. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, get amongst it. Okay, I think if you press the press number 1.
Are we live?
Ladies and gents, we're back in business. We're back on the internet. Earlier, Lorenzo was telling us all about COVID-19.
And for that very reason, we decided to kick him off for a little bit.
Well, hello. Welcome to the show. We've got another audience member. You can't see this.
You brought
here.
beer!
Yes,
But,
I'm rosé.
And a word from our sponsor,
I know.
Oh, yes.
Corona.
Oh, yes. Happy
Don't
Corona,
catch it.
everyone.
Don't catch it. Hey, chuck us a beer, won't you?
Yeah.
Throw me a beer, and I'm going to catch a Corona off Dan.
Corona 4, actually. So
Oh, wait,
it's
nice to
great.
meet you. I'm
Hey Dan. I'm gonna make sure you catch Corona. That's show business.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for these. This is fantastic. This is the drink of the
Drink of the hour, drink of the day, drink of the month.
drink of the last 3 months. This is.
I have to show you the chair I'm making. I'm making a chair
You're making a chair.
with the caps.
Oh, great. Brilliant. Well, Corona isn't bad for everyone because the one of the things that happens is you can improvise with the caps and make a chair. Will the chair be for sale?
One is for charity, yes.
Well, it's a chair.
Making
Oh,
a
right.
map of Africa.
Making a map of Africa out of Corona
thank you.
bubble
This
sacks.
was
So the
nice.
gold, the map is being done all around it is Corona, yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
right. Wow. And which charity is it? Is this all? Come on and let the audience know about the charity and the
Welcome to
projects.
It's me.
Sure.
Hello.
Hello.
It's
Sorry,
called,
your
it's
name is
Noélie Marionnette.
Noria Marionette.
I like
Nice to
that.
meet you, Ollie.
Nice to meet you. I'll have a glass first to drink and then I'll tell you about the charity. It's called People for Africa.
Known as the puppet
People
master.
for Africa. Okay.
Voilà.
Great. And it's a charity. And the,
Just to help, our goal is to open schools for children, schools of skills, like as opposed to a normal curriculum, to just teach children by skills. So if they're good at crafting, that will just push them in there.
yeah. What's that? There's a word. Vocational
Vocational
educational
school, yeah.
for African children.
Very
And
nice.
you're going to be making a chair out of Corona
Yeah, I'll
lids.
put you an example here.
Ooh, fantastic.
So I'll show you. You can put it online, favorite. So I've seen one in Africa. So this is what it's going to look like in the end.
Oh, that's really cool. Oh, right. Oh, wow. That's brilliant. Can you show it to this camera
I
here?
can.
Brilliant. That's lovely.
It's pretty cool. But when mine is finished, then I will. I'll show you. This is exciting.
Brilliant.
Good. I'll let you
Great. And so what gave you the idea to
do the
make
chair?
a Corona chair?
Ah,
A
well,
Corona chair.
so I went to Africa in February and I saw one of the chair and I thought this is great. I didn't want for myself. And because I had so much time on my hands, I found 3 iron chairs. Actually, I found 9 now. I got all the caps. I drank fairly much during the lockdown.
Well, you don't want to let any of it go to waste. It's
Exactly.
you're recycling.
Yeah,
you can't
exactly
recycle
that.
until you've cycled.
Exactly that. So we're recycling.
Yeah.
And the idea was to have the map of Africa surrounded by Corona and all the money I would make from it just to send it. I work. Yeah,
Great.
it's cool. I've been commissioned to do another one with Newcastle United flag on it.
Oh, right.
So once the decorative chairs, obviously, but
Yeah.
I found a new hobby during the lockdown.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to seeing the result.
I
of
will
your
bring it
labours.
now, obviously.
Say again.
I'll bring it in.
Oh, fantastic. And we can
Of
show
course
it
I
off
will.
here on
Of course, I'll bring
the
it
new
in.
Athens.
Cool.
Fantastic. New horizons in architecture and chairs. And
I should recycle
do.
material. I'm also doing a house in France just with that.
oh, right.
Like recycle everything. I
Great.
found a really cool documentary that, now in Peru in South America. They're doing houses with recycled plastic. So they make bricks out of plastic and
All
they're
right.
building house with it.
Oh, right.
Well, they're waterproof.
So in Peru, they're building houses out of
Out
recycled
of
plastic.
recycled plastic.
It's, yeah, because there's so much of it about. There's so much because I remember when if you set fire to a plastic bag, it sort of shrinks into like just a hard, resilient material. Yeah, and
Yeah,
instead
so
of burying it, it's a much better
But isn't the process of burning the plastic quite bad?
Oh,
it is,
yeah.
yes, the fumes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
but
is.
but you know what I mean. What I was sort of getting at is that if you have a plastic bag and if you heat it up, you know all plastic bags go in the bin as far as I'm aware. all of my plastic bags go in the bin.
Yeah.
And if they're going to making houses, that would be a much more valuable
I've got a
proposition.
picture of something somewhere. I bet I'll send it to you.
Oh, great!
Really great for instance. Nice.
I think we
Are
can do a lot with recycled materials, actually.
Yeah,
A lot.
absolutely. Yeah,
Especially for people who have nothing. It's always,
Well, something's better than nothing, isn't it?
Yeah. Exactly.
Any recycling anecdotes, Dan?
No. I mean,
It's already hard to separate bottles from the food.
Sorry. Did you bought these?
Yeah, I got some rosé, so I'm gonna have rosé.
Oh, right. Okay. Fair enough.
It's really hot in here.
It is warm.
Thank you.
It's the lights, these show business lights. I can't see if we've got any comments.
I like the Stringfellows, the Peter Stringfellows kind of thing behind.
it matches Lorenzo's personality.
And well, it doesn't just match his personality. It's also only £1 a meter from Amazon. Like the kind of tigers you find in the Amazon rainforest.
Yeah.
Is it tigers in the rainforest?
I don't think so, but maybe.
Oh, okay.
I thought tigers are like an Indian kind of thing. Maybe like
Oh,
in
yeah.
like Siberia, you got like the white.
The Bengal
fluffy.
rainforest.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Nice to meet you, by the way.
nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. And thanks ever so much for bringing these beers along.
You're welcome.
They were much needed in this time.
What is this temperature?
Dry
Seriously.
time.
So are you still on air?
Yes.
We're still live. Has anybody written any comments apart from the yellow ones? I think. And
No.
what's the number in the top corner?
Huh?
Is it? You see the number top left-hand corner?
Top left, 10-7.
All right, 7 people. Hello, everybody. Hello, all 7 viewers.
We would like to talk about.
It's
Chuck us a subject. Throw us a subject. What would you like us to talk about, ladies?
Politics? Did you do politics? No.
Oh
Why
well,
do you
that's
feel emasculated? Was
Maybe
it?
I'm terrible. That's
why.
Love.
Do you
You
as a
would-
man do you feel emasculated?
I don't
Yes.
know really what it means.
But you've been in the army. You're a real man.
But what does
Okay.
emasculation mean? What does it actually mean?
You're the traditional role that we're expected to play has disappeared.
Okay.
When women have a clear battle, right? It's to ascertain that they could do everything we can do and even better. They have a fight. They have a purpose. What is the man? I mean, we're not going to stop the woman from achieving equality, right? That's wrong.
No.
So what is our fight? What is our purpose?
Why do you fight?
We've got to fight
Yeah, but I
against
mean,
adversity.
what's
Fight against adversity?
it's
is
like-
what creates.
it's what is my purpose?
It bred into you, and I think it's also
Exactly, because the word fight is what we've been doing for millennia, and all of a sudden there's
the
no
masculine
universal
thing that
there's
you're
no
really
universal
doing.
conscription. There's there's what is the traditional role now? I mean, what will be the role for males in Western society?
well, the world is changing. Like we've always
Complete the woman.
Right, I guess. Yeah.
Complete.
I mean, there's
I don't think
there's that.
We'll let them think that, Dan. We'll let them think it. We get whatever.
I mean, I don't mind it, but I don't know in what way.
Men
Because
think that women want to be equal to men, but they're actually not. They just want to be appreciated, which are two different things.
Who do women?
Women.
Hmm.
Of course, they try to play rugby and football and all that, which they're really good at, but nobody really watches. Right? It's true.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they should be allowed to do that. Perhaps maybe not the salary according to the ratings, but I think they just want to be appreciated. It's not about as being equal, because I think women are complementary. Yeah, they're valued.
No, I don't think. No, I think it's about, if you want to talk about equality, right? It's not about being appreciated. It's just like if you've got the same skills, like mental abilities.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Then you have the same opportunities, right?
Then
Despite
men.
your gender.
Exactly. That's true.
You have that's what it's about. I don't think
It's not
Mm.
appreciated
No.
for you. It's appreciated for what you bring to the
Yeah.
table.
Yeah.
It's
But also for
not-
your brain, for your level. Yeah.
That's what equality is about. It's not like demasculating a man or
no, but it's not because of. I don't think it's because of feminism. I think it's because of deeper
I'm loving
socio-economic trends
So cool.
that we don't
Take a
have
picture of us.
universal conscription anymore. Which is, I mean, I'm happy we don't
Hashtag
have
the
universal
new
conscription
Athens.
anymore. But we're not expected to be, the. I'm a bit distracted.
So I know you're not expected to be.
We're not well. What my grandfather was expected to be is definitely not expected of me, right?
What was your grandfather responsible?
Well, you're not going to.
The breadwinner, serve in the army, you know, defend the
So he was
fatherland. Russian.
Russian.
But it's regardless of nationality. It's men of the post-war generation.
Yeah.
Were brought up in a harder, more difficult time, and we're so soft and live in this form of abundance where we don't even work with our hands anymore.
Take
Like everything
countries
is
that it's
different.
mandatory for both men and women to do a year or two variant.
Israel.
Israel, yeah, the military service.
Exactly.
They look
It's
really hot,
mandatory.
the girls, when they're 17 in the
how do you
army
think
thing.
Walk around with guns. Yeah.
How do you think that changes their culture and sort of these issues that we not issues but like
They have a very strong sense of collective identity, I think, which we
Right.
don't.
So
I
they
want to
have
find
the
you a
struggle-
really good book
they
that's
have a
been
collective
written.
struggle, which is keep
What's the
Israel
book?
existing, and whether or not that's an
For
existential
the
threat,
social.
it may not be an existential
it's
threat,
not
but
about
at
it being an
least
existential
at
threat.
least it's
I'm
there's a
talking about
concept in mind for those men and women.
Social
in
and
that-
emasculation.
in that,
There was a woman as well.
Yeah, I think
They
Israel,
wrote a book
Israel's
again.
kept busy. Israel's got like if you're interested in the idea of if you're
They got
Israeli,
kibbutz. They have the army. They're a very collective culture, right? The history of which is a fairly young history of where the state is founded, right? Comes from the fact that
Israel is a young state.
yes, 1947.
I mean Israel is has to work harder to
Smoke.
sort of exist than the
Come back
UK
to
or
Israel, I'm
America.
moving out of the
It doesn't-
conversation.
But can I ask,
Israel is
what's
like an ice cube in an oven.
but what's
whereas-
disagreeable about my statement that Israel is a young state?
Because of religion, because sorry.
I'm sure that the Jewish culture is very.
Taping it into just talking about it as a state rather than like I think it's bigger than its history is so.
So I think the distinction Dan might be drawing is that
It's not the religion
that
or
it's
the
a-
Jewish
it's a
people,
young
but the
state.
state, the polity of
because
Israel.
being a state is different from being in a diaspora inside of Christian states, and so the sensibility of having your own place that's then yours as birthright or new birthright and of your and birthright of your children, and as an autonomously controlled territory rather than carving out a place inside somebody else's city and contributing economically, intellectually, industrially, artistically to somebody else's economy.
Let's put it more
Israel's
simple. It
now
existed on the map,
its own place.
right? As a map, as a sovereign kind of territorial unit with a military force. That's existed since 1947. And although the Jewish religion goes back perhaps more than
4,000 years.
Yeah. it's maybe even 5,000. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not
Of
sure.
the
it's a
of the
different thing.
order.
But it's not the same thing as being an Israeli to be a Jew. It's they're distinct from each other.
Clevu Search.
So bring it.
Clevu Search says, I want to hear more on Ollie's perception of the role of masculinity changing, having been in the army.
Yes.
I think if people have to do something, if you're a man or a woman and you have to do it, you'll do it. However that mindset is achieved, the result of doing it, the doing it is the result. So however you achieve that mindset of just getting it done, it doesn't matter. It doesn't.
So what you told me about
7 years. I was a trombone player in the band.
So what you told me about your time in the military was that you
He
joined.
didn't even have a gun. He had to fight off Al Qaeda with a
trombone.
trombone. You know how hard that is.
Well, they did band music. The Taliban band music.
Yes, and Taliban.
He was
And
ambushed.
Bamiyan.
He was ambushed by
Bamiyan?
6 of them, and he had to just charm them by playing the trombone. It was hard.
Well, no, yeah.
Fighting them off from the green zone.
Although
from
no,
those scimitars.
we did a beat retreat. We did
Band.
a few concerts in the Green Zone, the American Embassy, and in the British Embassy,
Which was one of Saddam Hussein's palaces.
Yeah, which was Saddam Hussein's palaces. But there were interesting places to go, and there was a military role that we did, but most of the militaries standing around.
You brought down the
drinking
walls
cups
of
tea.
you brought down the walls of
Yeah,
Jericho by walking around it and blowing the trumpet, and banging the cymbals, and then the walls of Jericho came down
I don't know.
with the sound of the trumpets themselves.
I mean, not not specifically, but so well. I was a military musician, and so the institution of the military is something that you have to. It's something that there's a sort of shock of capture when you join and you do your basic training, and it's all like marching up and down and getting up before you go to bed and all that stuff.
Oh, we have an incoming voice call from Amy in Cheshire.
Is that?
All right, go on. Then.
Amy. Hey.
I've been here the whole time.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Very well. How's Cheshire?
Yeah,
Shit,
very
I think we're
lovely,
getting
very
a
lovely.
Feedback loop.
It's actually I'm in the Merseyside.
Oh, okay.
So Wirral wise.
Wirral. Yeah. Sorry, I was wrong.
Be aware that we're listening. All of us.
So, what was you've been listening the whole time, and you had a comment?
Oh yeah, I was wanting to hear more about Ollie's comment on masculinity.
You interrupted.
Oh,
actually.
you are so you're Clever Research.
Ask the question.
You're
Yeah.
Clever Research in
Yeah.
the Zoom. Okay, so
Yeah,
Amy's in the Zoom,
absolutely.
everyone.
Yeah.
We're making use of this.
In on the old companies. I logged in, but
Fantastic.
I must have a window open somewhere. So
Yeah, there's a window. I've got
Ollie's
the
the
window up
rockstar
on the
murder
laptop now, so we can
introducer,
see your chat. And so no, thank you for using it. Like we just set it up today with better sound, so that if you come on the Zoom, or you come on WhatsApp actually.
Why did you join the army?
There we go.
I didn't get. Well, I went to. My dad was in the army.
Oh, we
and-
met in Elkin Pair,
Yeah.
tearing up the dance floor
There you go. Yeah.
in the courtroom in St Martin's Lane,
And
swing dancing.
I didn't do very well in my A levels. I wanted to join the army as an officer because that's what everybody else's dads were doing. And that's what everybody else's dads did. Everybody's parents were in the army where I came from, and so I thought
This is not
that. Well, I went to because my dad was in the army. I went to an army school, and everybody's parents in that school was in the army, and so it was the only thing that, or maybe become a school teacher. That was another thing because that was a thing that adults did. Basically, adults either were in the army or were school
You
teachers.
chose a much more badass option.
And well, and then
Even if you didn't do anything, people will respect you. Lauren.
well, I mean, it was. But no, in fact, here's the reason why I joined. I joined because I knew that I would be made to do something rather than I knew myself well enough that I was actually a lazy teenager. And I knew that I needed to put myself in an environment where I'd be made to
Discipline yourself.
do something. Yeah.
So you
You know,
take on
You
the
need to
structure.
be led. You needed to be led by
Yeah,
someone as
yeah,
opposed to,
yeah.
But also, I think there's this desirable
Directed.
sense of honor,
Like-
right? That you.
Sorry.
Sorry, I think we had a clash. Amy,
I was saying maybe a better word than led is directed. Is that a better word? Yeah.
Nobody else used
But
it.
also, well, I think perhaps led is
That's
probably
exactly the
accurate because it was about having.
It's like it's a computer.
Maybe directed, but no, I don't think that. I think I needed to be frightened into doing something. I think I knew that I needed to be frightened by someone. I knew myself that I was driven by the stick better than the carrot.
Yeah.
I think, and that.
So you put yourself in a stick scenario.
Yeah.
Because you knew that the future self of you would thank the past self of you for signing on the dotted line and putting yourself in that environment.
Well, also they
So
pay you and they make you do stuff, and I knew, and there are two things,
Incentive.
Yeah.
They're
Yes.
going to
Yeah.
go to
It's carrot and
boarding
stick,
school,
right?
but you get
Yeah.
paid.
What did your dad do in the army?
My dad was in the education corps. He was a teacher in the army.
Oh, that's why you're pacifist.
Ah.
But, oh yeah.
Do you have any
What do you do
SAS
now
in
if you
you?
don't mind me
No.
asking?
Say again.
What do you do now?
I run a video production company.
And we are in it. We're in the bunker. This is what
How do you
Oliver
deal
has
with
made.
the no carrots or button.
Well, I've the trajectory, the momentum that I was given, built up, the attitude to getting things done.
Somebody's
The note
Can I go?
enabled me to sort
Can
of.
I get you a Swiss?
Actually, it was a double-edged sword because
gives you discipline.
It gives you discipline, but also there is sort of a when you leave an institution like the military. I was in it for 7 years, and I left when I was 25. It was like
You got a Rangers tattoo or something.
it was
like
no,
really brown.
it was
No teardrops.
it was like because no one's telling you to do something, it's like there's no one telling you what to do, so you don't do anything, and then you go like.
Doesn't mean university.
But then you
Did you get bored of not doing it? You got bored of then not taking yourself in hand, and you realized I've got to impose this on myself now.
Yeah.
So did you harness the rigor of the military and then impose it on yourself?
Well, here's the thing. I had to learn after leaving. I had to learn to motivate myself
Separately.
Yeah.
Which you can pass that. Hey,
Yeah.
Bring your
Ed's come.
tuxedo again.
So I basically just postponed learning how to do it myself.
Welcome,
Yeah,
Ed
but
Mirza.
also the re-assimilation, right, into civilian life out of the army. Like, my dad served for 19 years.
You did? Yeah.
My dad
Was in the army.
Is he in office?
Ed's here.
All right.
all right.
How's it going?
It's got some delay on
Yes,
it.
I mean, was he strict with you?
Yes.
Hey, all right, thanks.
Are you
You were saying, Oliver,
Yeah, you grew up in London?
imposing
No,
discipline on
actually.
yourself, but you had to reverse engineer it again when you left the structure.
Yeah. So when people go to university, they have to get themselves out of bed. They haven't got a sergeant major getting them out of bed and telling them when
And
to
they
go.
don't get out of
Unless
bed.
you get paid to go to university, which
Did
still
your
happens
father
in
not
France.
do that when you were
Oh,
So
growing
you
up?
get paid to get, so you get a stipend.
You get
As an
paid,
undergraduate.
No, his mum was like,
you get
right.
money
like, I
from the
mean,
States.
he was a parent.
Oh, right, okay.
Scholarship.
And
Like a
then-
stipend
You have,
scholarship, yeah.
if you don't,
I mean,
turn
my
out,
dad died
get
at
Yeah.
your money off.
Okay.
Oh,
It's a
right.
great way to do it.
I think
Yeah,
it's more
that's
chess.
a pretty
And
good
then
way
what
to
I'm asking about is like bringing it back down to the sort of like emasculation, and it's just like trying to understand like whether these things like making it mandatory to have these experiences and understanding what a fight is and understanding what it's like to live, to not be surrounded by this luxury that we are in. You know, whether the emasculation would differ because you'd actually be more grateful about not having to fight.
Fine.
I mean,
You shift that
yes.
into the corner.
Ultimately, I am more grateful that we don't have to fight. But if you have an Eastern European mother, she has expectations of you, which you cannot fulfill because she's of a different culture and generation. But the point is that most of the world is that. And we live in a multicultural society where you got a bunch of immigrant kids and even Ollies, right, which have, you know, and you, which have parents from the military, but we're becoming a globalized, multinational kind of. We have like transnational organizations which didn't exist only a few generations ago, and sure, but within a longer, like our culture has much deeper roots than just a few generations. So like the few generations that are born in the 80s and the 90s. And the whole new mode of the economy, where essentially whatever you do, you sit in front of a computer, and that could be anything. That could be management consultancy to coding to just being an investment banker where you manage spreadsheets. Your position is sitting in front of a desk and working with your fingers. So it's not even, you can't say that that's necessarily an intellectual profession in all its sense, but it's just one way to say that, okay, we're not realizing ourselves in terms of our careers, and also the traditional boundaries of families are being different. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I feel that in this modern context, what made, for example, our parents feel masculine is irrelevant to us. And in that sense, there's a bit of a cultural crisis.
No.
Like, you know, like in the film Fight Club,
How is delayed?
they just start fighting each other
Like it.
because they all grow up wimps
I
with
love
these
it.
like insurance jobs, and they're also kind of like, and they're like, I want to actually feel like I'm alive,
Yes.
and we don't get that. Like they said, like most men of our generation have never been in a
This is
fight,
the fight
which is
club
actually
nation.
crazy because that's you know, we're wimps. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's
But we are the pacifist generation. But our children, I've got two sons,
yeah,
15 and 8, Tom and Arthur. and they are really aware, like even more than what we were. Like we were talking about what's happening in America right now and the violence that's around it, and my little age is also the George Floyd, the video, and it literally burst into tears. I can't believe I'm growing up in. They can't fathom violence the way I still have I had parents who would they were tough and they would raise you by, if you didn't listen, you get slapped, or even at school we used to have the ruler. It was the different generations where being tough was important for our parents, right? I think
to instill
our children,
that in their kid.
Yeah, our kids are not like this at all anymore. They're like
they
live in a bubble.
We don't have military service anymore, do we?
Exactly.
Well, that was the big thing.
Yeah.
That was like the
So
big major disciplining
in France,
factor,
we
right?
had to do it as well.
Yeah.
In France.
In a lot of countries, you do it.
Everywhere. I mean,
I think I'm not sure if
in the
it's
West.
mandatory anymore in France. I don't think it's mandatory anymore,
Really?
though.
No,
No, I don't
but
think so.
that's recent. I mean, like in the grand scheme of history, right? We only had like the two most intense global wars within the lifespan of our grandparents, right? So that's so recent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember in Portsmouth, one of the Portsmouth is the big naval town, and one of the buildings on the seafront was a big barracks, and it was being sold off for housing, and I remember thinking, oh god, it's just going to be turned into flats. So it's like, I thought, oh, that's rubbish, that is. But then I think I told my mum, and she was like, well, that's good, really, because it means that there isn't a need for as many troops around. So that's an indicator that life is good, you know. So
even though that's the industry of the place, and it is all subsidized by the army wages, as you say, pay and do.
Right.
So the army wages come in, and that supports then the town. So if that shrinks, the town has to do something else or just shrink.
It's like a Darwinian approach to social evolution, right? As the economy becomes more complicated, the tech guys survive and the old services die, and it's kind of cruel.
Yeah, I mean, a shop used to be a bricks and mortar fishbowl in a high street.
But have you heard of Christiania? So Christiania was a military base in Denmark, in Copenhagen. It was an old fort, and the army in the 70s stopped using it, and a bunch of squatters moved into it. And because of Danish squatting laws, essentially, they managed to retain this old fort and have a little community in it.
Amazing.
And they created a state within a state, and they created basically
drugs.
Yeah, what is it called?
Christiania.
Does it
It's
still
like
exist?
It still exists because
going.
Denmark is such a liberal country that these squatters ultimately took it off.
Why not?
Yeah, it's like they have a
I mean,
perimeter.
Sounds good to me.
Well, they
They
banned
have their
heroin. They
own
banned
law.
heroin and hard drugs, but
that's
they grow their own
the-
potatoes there.
weed.
Everything, they grow their own potatoes there. It's like it's literally like their own like little anarchist commune there. Yeah, because
So
squatters
here we
moved into
go.
a military base and claimed squatters' rights.
What number does Elizabeth have to press to show this video? This is this week in Seattle. So we can see here a video from ABC News of I've got it. It's okay. Oh, to get the right sound.
I don't know about that.
So this happened this week. Oh, sorry. So the Christiania experiment has been going on for several decades now.
Since the 70s,
Since the 70s. But then this week in Seattle, an abandoned police precinct, which is like an area of the Seattle city, was taken over because the police have abandoned it. From ABC News about what that has happened right now.
This morning, hundreds of people in Seattle occupying a now abandoned police precinct. The takeover coming after the Seattle Police Department abruptly surrendered the building after weeks of clashing with protesters. Now boarded up and abandoned, the building is renamed the Seattle People Department. The 6 blocks surrounding it have been dubbed Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone.
Recognize that this building is the people's. We pay for it with our taxes.
Surrounded by barricades, police aren't allowed, while demonstrators hold meetings, set up clinics, and offer free food.
Leaving the precinct was not my decision.
The police chief last night condemned the order from the city that forced her officers to retreat.
It seems like an insult to you and our community. Ultimately, the city had other plans for the building and relented to severe public pressure.
The city has been under fire for its tactics in recent weeks, using flashbangs and pepper young crowds. This girl crying in pain. 14,000 complaints filed against police. But the chief now says due to the takeover, officers can no longer respond to.
And that was a bit of American news.
So what was it about? Someone's made a squat in a police station.
It's just, yeah.
The people place.
Yeah.
But you know, I was talking about this to I works for the government. It basically does strategy, governmental strategy too. It's supposed to know what's going to happen, and which is very, very hot right now. He was saying to me, just like what's happening right now is that you have all these, the wealthy are becoming wealthier. And now also a lot of people are realizing they want to be self-sufficient. They work more into the trading things or services.
Yeah.
You have more of that. And you say it's like two societies that are completely opposite to our. You have the Instagram on computer things, and you have the more real people who are like the mug, Rees-Mugg's
I hate Instagram.
dad. Was kind of.
Oh, yeah.
He wrote a book about that. Rees-Mugg's father, right?
Yeah, okay.
How about society will be really separated, and then you have the uber rich are going to have.
We are. I mean, like, not even. I think even if you're uber rich, right? You have people.
We have another guest. Welcome, Katerina.
Hello.
Katerina, proud of Katerina. Welcome to the New Athens live stream.
You should have her on the video every Friday.
We're running a bit low on creativity juice.
I got.
So, where's everyone going to sit?
With glasses.
We've got glasses.
But it's so interesting because it's happening.
You need a couple more.
But I think
we
you really have like a world where, regardless of their income, right? Because you may have new money, you have people which made money, but you have.
It's just a mentality. It's more about.
Mentalities are more complicated, but you have people which are more interested or more aware of the broader social problems.
Yeah.
And they have a lot and they want to do. They want to promote sort of self-sufficiency.
Exactly.
They want to promote sustainable markets. They want to combat oligopolies, big, and you have the other guys which just want to travel, make pictures of their travel, and all. I mean, you can compare people on Facebook which posts. Yeah, but I mean, there are types of people which post interesting articles or information you wouldn't find yourself. I wouldn't want to find yourself. So I follow people which just have interests.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of people I unfollowed which just post pictures of themselves eating and all. But that's an indication of essentially what you call a similar economic bracket, but different social economic brackets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other day, I was in a queue for a shop, and this car drove past. It was like a cool American car, and two people in front of me took a picture of it on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I thought, what's going to happen is people on the end of that Instagram feed are going to receive a notification saying, "I've just seen a car."
Yeah.
It's like, I saw the car, and it's like, you see cars every day. It's like, it's complete.
It's basic bullshit.
Yeah, it's just like.
So posting like the key really for Instafuck is you eat every day.
Hey, can I see what you posted on Instagram lately? Can you just?
I posted like.
Let's just see what this guy does.
I can show you mine.
Yeah.
So then you can see a typical.
Let's see what Mr.
Hold
I
on for the camera.
my son playing piano.
There you go. Close.
You can see the grid. So that one. That's my son playing piano.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. He's bloody handsome.
Go in here.
Very handsome.
Right there.
Very handsome.
Yeah.
I'm very fun.
Great.
And then it's a cheese made of cannabis I bought in the butcher, which is really nice.
Take photos of your food.
Yeah, well, he says I want to promote that. He said the butcher, and then he's not charging, but it's called Time for Revolution. You can see.
There we go.
Nice quotes. The chairs, horse.
We have some horsey action. We
have when what's that one? Kennedy said.
The new Athens.
Wait, can you show me what Lorenzo posts?
Peaceful revolution will impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. Kennedy.
Yeah, and then Jimi Hendrix, When the Love of Power. Classics. Well, it's mainly my children. High in Hope. That's a good one. Love it.
We need to get.
It's basically my children.
You're a very French mother. Yes.
Jerusalem. Yeah. Yeah. I think the best children in the world. They teach me every day.
We saw. So we've kind of got a full complement now. I think for the evening. So we what we did with this evening was we had a bit more of a full house. and had a bit of a drinks party. So, welcome to Katerina.
Thank you.
10 days of responsible exercise complete.
Yes.
So Katerina has
yesterday
been...
is actually must be 2 days ago, but
Yes.
I gave the rest to myself the last 10 days
Yes.
after the job. So I did it yesterday, the last day, and I was feeling like champion.
So Katerina's a wonderful
And
fashion
drinking
designer
wine,
and drinking wine. So you've been on a fast or like?
So it was about like to put yourself to the discipline.
Yes.
Before
Talking
summer
our
special.
theme for the evening really is this
it's
self-discipline.
like, yeah, cool, good.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to
So
hear.
it was about like no alcohol, no
Yes.
carbs, no sugar, and plus little bit of the mental spiritual state, like to try to find out about your bad sides and try to replace them on the positive
Feng shui.
stuff. Yeah, and
Yes.
just to try to work with this 10 days. So my way was I tried to write down my affairs, and it was 17.
Yes.
And to try like new practice to try to replace them on the positive vibration and to think how it could be the best is how it's actually. Yeah.
Well, how did you find that to diet? Because 10 days of no sugar, no alcohol, and no carbs is actually how your system starts to eat fat.
Ketosis, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you starve yourself, you'll go into ketosis, and then you'll signal to your body,
I
I'm
live my
starving.
life like that, by the way.
So, yeah, I can see. You know, you're
With
always
the
so
wine.
always so narrow. So yeah, ketosis, everyone. If you eat very little, you have 18 hours of fasting at a single time, you'll put your body into a period of ketosis during a day. You don't have to fast for 24 hours actually. Like with Ramadan, you can fast like an 18-hour stint, and you get your body into that ketosis state. When you do exercise, you'll be burning fat. Even a little bit of exercise starts burning fat anaerobically really quickly, and so you don't like run for half an hour to even like eat up your food. So that really cuts fat and builds muscle. And so you've been giving that a
They
go for 10
say
days.
about that it's not about the muscles and it's not about how to get slimmer. It's about the discipline and it's about to try to be
makes you feel
perfect day by day of trying to be deeper of the exercises whatever you're doing in your life, and the result will be like the bonus.
Yes.
Second point.
I've lived my life.
And the first one is just to try to deep inside the things, like to do this proper.
Did you have trouble sleeping at the end of it? Because when you cut carbs for 10 days, and when you sometimes don't eat as much, you get quite restless in the night.
I think just because you also having the clean life medicine, you start to get up early.
Yes.
As well,
Yeah.
like first up is like this. Then I'm trying to put myself. I'm doing meditation every day in the morning. I'm trying to calm down myself because it's like everything has such a lot of thoughts. And
Do you have a lot of energy? You find you had a lot of energy.
yes,
More
getting-
energy.
yeah. Of
Your
course.
You
skin
wake up
Did you
early
have
naturally.
spots at
or-
the beginning?
I've got, you know what?
Spots.
As my eyes
the beginning.
became more up and
Yeah.
the eyes became more like cat. And
Yes.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah, you can
You
see
said the
it.
change,
See
yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So
sorry.
you got up early without an alarm or with an alarm?
I say today I woke up without alarm.
Yeah, because you can train yourself
But I'm
into
not
it, right?
waking up at 5, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
artist
And what
and I
time do you go to
like
bed?
I must. At 12. Yesterday I was 23:10 in the bed. I watched a little
Good.
bit of some kind of movie.
So about 5 hours sleep.
They say by the health that is the best to go to sleep about 10 o'clock the latest because until 12 o'clock the body is recovering. And after 12 is just about some kind of stuff.
Do you read before you go to bed? Or do you watch screen?
I don't like to read. Somehow it's happened. Yeah, you know.
No,
my
no,
life,
it's
the
not for
parents didn't
everybody.
give me this love, but now I'm listening the audio book is manipulation of
Great to
the
fall asleep, isn't it?
a manipulation of the I don't know how to say this on the
Brain
brain.
waves.
Yeah, of the people who is manipulating somebody else.
We have a question from Johnny Wittridge, who's a farmer in the outlands of Scotland. He's gone full prepper, and he's creating his own food and his own defensible territory in case civilization breaks down. And he's a long-term friend of the show. And he asks Katerina, do you get restless leg syndrome when you've been using so much energy? Do your legs vibrate, or do you have any sort of jitter or twitches?
I say that after training, if
Can
especially
you
exercise,
demonstrate
is shaking. But
I don't think any of us can. We're on the
but
table.
another point when you are like
Dan's doing it right now. If you see,
like
if
Elvis
you can't see
Presley.
behind,
I mean,
Dan in
this
our
one,
producer's
like-
chair is vibrating. You see the
Like
legs
Elvis
vibrating.
Presley
I say
dancing.
it's a
Yes,
sexual
yes.
different things, it's about when you just, it could be tick or just after exercise or just because you were standing all day on the legs. So, of course, you have some pressure, say, like on the heels if you're standing all day on the legs. And
I don't
after
do that anymore.
exercise for the 1 hour after. But generally, if you're all right, you don't need to have that.
If you're what?
I think you're right.
If
Huh?
you,
If you're actually generally all right, you
Yeah,
don't need
yeah.
to have
Yes.
that.
Well,
It's
so-
coming down after maximum 1 hour after
What-
training or whatever. Or you have the problem when you have the tick and you're always doing this.
so that is that involuntary then?
I think it's about the nervous system and the tick, yeah. So it's coming from the instability when you're always shaking.
No, it's like it does increase your. It's either a sign of increased metabolism, or it's a reaction to an increased metabolism. It's not clear the causation and
But
correlation.
I don't think that you have this after the speed up of the metabolism. You don't have this.
No, but if you work out your legs, if you go downstairs, you're like this.
Yes,
Yeah.
but this will come down after half an hour.
Oh yeah, it does.
Yeah,
But
that's it.
have you found out that when you don't actually exercise, you get cramps a lot?
Yeah.
Like if you stop
I've
exercising.
I say
never had a
after
cramp in my
8
life.
days.
I
Really?
just don't know what they are. You've tried to
I was
massage
going
me.
to say something, so
you-
you don't
you-
wink enough.
Well, it's like not enough tension. It's fine. I just have I've never
Sorry.
needed a Nerdy's a professional masser.
Spots massage. I
Massage.
do.
And
I say-
I've never needed the one time I fucked up my body was when I got a massage, right? Because my body has a functionality to it. I never get cramps. This doesn't happen. I mean, feel
I had
tension.
the
Is there
cramps
tension?
after 9
Well, I
days.
don't know. I
of
can feel it with
doing
the
this.
shoulder pads.
Yeah.
Aren't you boiling? I mean, literally.
These-
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
dripping
yeah,
on
but it's after 9 days of doing this challenge.
Yes.
Um,
Whose
I was
challenge
the-
was it?
It was 45 minutes per day of doing proper training.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
you don't need to carry bodies like full on. Yeah, it's about 5 sets, 45 minutes. So on the day 9, I didn't do the stretching after because I was shouting on my teacher.
Don't get close
Yeah.
with this.
And the next day I woke up with the cramps on the left.
This is not
He's got
only a
corona.
corona. He's got corona eyes. Yes, corona iris.
That's a good one.
He's got corona iris, everyone.
Oh, there you go. I've got mine. Sorry, carry on.
We have a
It is
case of
creepy.
corona iris extra.
It's creepy.
That does actually stick. It's like a monocle, but like a weird version.
I tell you what, they've been doing really well. The
It's
industry.
nice exercise for the
I thought they went
muscles when you.
No,
yeah.
we've
What?
been drinking it this
Bust.
evening.
I
We've
don't
been.
think so.
I thought
fucking
they
them this
stopped.
evening.
They stopped producing. It's Mexican, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they stopped
Why are you
producing beer for a
looking
while.
right
I
now?
think.
Have they? Well, I'm sure they've been doing really well.
You
Yeah,
are.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's the funniest beer of the.
Oh, don't throw the caps.
But I think it's
Oh, no,
it's
they
the polarization, right? You get 10% who love, and 10% who think, oh, it's going to give me the disease. And so the 10% who like love the irony of it, they're going to like buy more.
Yeah, but everyone was like, "Oh, not that joke again," and everyone stopped buying it. I think for that reason, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
Because the
I
irony
only
of
got-
it.
Whatever.
oops, I only got
like,
Corona
they're not by
to the
Corona.
chairs,
Everyone think I'm trying to be funny, and so they just ruin
Oh, you think-
And
I
It's the
always
funniest
love
beer you
Corona.
can
It's
possibly
nice
buy
beer.
for the last 3 months.
Nice and good.
I like the other one with the tequila inside. What's it called?
Yeah.
I like this one.
Desperado.
Desperado.
Desperado,
Yeah. I used
yeah.
to do this when I was a
Desperado.
teenager. I was-
Mm.
That's a good show.
We heard his
Yeah, I'm going to bring some
It was
interesting
cramps,
guests,
Johnny, it was
actually.
cramps, not cramps.
Oh, well,
We don't have
I need
any
to
of
bring
the
Tanya,
cases
who's
happening.
Russian.
Yes.
She'll be a great contrafact. She's
Yes.
a really
And Russian versus Ukrainian.
yeah, but she's also she's actually Estonian. She's Russian living in Estonia.
Ollie, can you let Elizabeth back in with booze?
Very good.
Ah,
So, the
Yes,
the
so
the focus of our discussion tonight has become
health.
Not only the fall of civilization,
discipline.
which is always
Discipline,
underlying
I can
nation,
speak forever
but
about
how
that.
do you personally
Yeah, I have not.
prepare yourself for that
Me
fall of
too, that
civilization?
is why.
Turn
But,
the
Once
game sound off.
Always only ate 1 meal a day.
You can create.
My entire life.
I try and do that.
I had from the age
Dan,
of
turn
15.
the fucking sound off.
During the coronavirus, it's been hard because I would buy food for like a week and I'll eat off all the sugar within
Yeah.
14 to 20 10 minutes
Yes.
Sugar.
with my child.
You eat your emotions.
Yeah. Well, we would watch. I watched 3 movies yesterday, by the way.
Oh yes. On that nice. What's the stream site that we like?
Oh,
The-
fmmovies.fm.
fmmovies.fm. This
Free
was
streaming.
Noli's free streaming site. fmmovies.fm. I'm
Uh,
going to leave it in the links because
uh,
there's no ads. That you can ad
That's
block
pretty cool.
everything, and
Yeah.
it's got a very good selection of
Yeah.
old movies and new.
Yeah.
FM movies
Movies
with
dot
double
FM.
M.
FM. No, fmovies.fm.
fmovies.fm.
There's no signal going.
So we really love this because we saw.
But I
we
was
saw the
Little
pattern.
Women, and I didn't know it was Dr. March's 4 daughters.
I mean, because
It was the
otherwise
Quatre
you
filles de
forget
Dr. March.
Oh yes.
Well, I didn't know. It was my favorite book as a kid. Obviously, I used to love, you know. And Little Women is really, it's
Did you see the new little? The sort of
Yeah,
Little Women?
it's so
Was
cool.
it good? Was it
it's
good?
fantastic. I really like this new actor.
Who did it have it? Was it the
The young French boy.
young French boy? Which young French boy?
What is it? He's not. He's also no. He's not my son. Although I wish, but that would be a bit sick.
Hey, Elizabeth, Ekaterina, Elizabeth, Ed, Ekaterina, Ed, Elizabeth, Ed. We've got more. We've got more booze and more.
Beth. It's a lot.
Beth, there we go.
Sorry.
So we now have a full complement. And
I'm trying to.
Oh,
involve
the-
some
yeah,
Russian
I was-
audience as well,
oh, great. Okay,
Yeah,
Oliver,
so-
do you
because
have
they're probably gonna be
the
interested.
Wi-Fi password?
It's on the
I was in Jerusalem. We talked about Jerusalem. It was there in
I think it's
February,
that one.
March.
Oh yes.
I came back from Jerusalem before lockdown.
Ah,
This
this
is
is what
it.
we usually see.
Right,
It's
right.
red.
I was just
We were talking about it.
Yes.
In March.
Oh, you were there.
Is
I
that-
see the idea.
I was there. I was touching the wall.
Yes.
Are you there? This
Oh
is
yeah,
great.
on there's a women's bit of
We
it.
know
There's
it's
like
there,
segregated
anyway.
it off. There's like a women's bit where it's like not.
Yeah, well, I didn't know. I went through the man and the guy.
well
and-
done. Oh, well
No,
done.
well,
Did you get? Did you touch? Did you touch?
No, I didn't. Actually, the guy stopped me, and my friend who was with me
Before
was
you
like,
got you like
I literally. We were talking about Israel. I went to Israel. I came back. It was on my bucket list. I went there.
Yeah,
in
just
March.
take a photo.
I came back
Take a
the day
photo
before
and bring it
lockdown.
down because I don't have the.
And it's funny because everybody, nobody
Yeah,
told me
yeah,
there was
yeah,
a man and a
I'll-
women's side,
I'll
like in
get it
Arabic
now.
countries and culture. So I just marched through the men's side. I was like, oh, they're looking at me funny. I was looking hot
So
today. No, I
Andrew,
didn't.
Andrew asked
I had
us.
like leggings plus a short plus a jacket plus a scarf.
How may I
to cover
cure
up.
my restless legs?
And then he just stopped
No,
me and
that
said,
was-
you have to
that
go on
was
the other
Johnny.
side. And
Okay.
it's just like the segregation that I didn't find in Europe, but it's the same in Morocco.
Oh, right. Which country is it? Morocco.
Israel.
Israel.
I
Oh,
was in
wait.
Tel Aviv.
Israel is
March.
segregated as
family
Morocco.
Christmas dinner.
It's not, but you have the women and the men on each different side.
Oh,
And so when you go to touch the wall,
Yeah.
you've got to go on the women's side, which I didn't know. I marched for the men's side. I was like, I must be looking hot today because everybody's looking at me. And then the guy stopped me and said, I can't go there. I was literally convinced. I'm going in.
Yeah, and attention for all the wrong kinds of reasons.
I know.
Dan,
I know. And then it's like,
can
sorry,
you
where you
move
going?
the-
And then they
can you
put me in the
move
women's
this
side.
camera so
Maybe
Ollie's
He
in
was
the shot?
very, very
Maybe
humbling.
it's taught them a
Very-
thing or two. You know,
Yeah, there
It's
we
very
go.
humbling.
There we
showed
go.
them something they
Perfect.
didn't know.
Mm.
How about a solo mio?
Yes,
Yeah,
let's have a. I'm gonna step out
Oh, well,
and
you
then
can play
we'll have
music.
a
You have
second.
percussion so I can follow? To do that. What are you going to play?
So it's not a high C, is it? You're doing an A.
Hey, what do you want to do in G?
Yeah, a high C might, I'm just saying.
Are you gonna sing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is so cool!
Ed's an operatic tenor. Ollie's a great
Oh my
finger
god.
picker.
This is amazing.
Multi-amusement.
We should be like loose women, but with men.
Yes, loose.
I'm sorry, I'm going to come every year. Is that every Friday?
Loose
It's
human.
every day, up to and including every day, everyone.
Brilliant. Oh my god. Can I bring
The stream
Well,
is
always
I'm gonna
every
recover-
Friday.
controversial people?
Yeah,
That's what it's all about. This
absolutely.
is so good, huh?
Do you gaze at your bald head and wish you had hair?
Is it?
Remember that one? You never hear that recording?
No, never.
It was hilarious.
Can you do California Dreaming? Oh, that is a brown.
I know.
Yes, guys.
We've all heard it. But I don't know it.
I prefer what me neither.
Huh? You gonna
I don't understand. I can't sing. What is it?
I'd be safe and warm if I wasn't.
If I was in LA.
California, California, dreaming on such a winter's day. Stopped
On a
into a
winter's
gym.
day.
That's a long
No,
way.
it's so cool.
I can be back one now.
so cool.
Anyway,
And
sorry, Leo.
you're still filming now. It's over now, yeah?
No.
It's still going.
People are watching that.
Okay.
Faith people.
Yeah.
Hello, faith people.
I'd like to figure out.
Bum, bum, bum.
Che bella cosa, una leonate sola, Nuria serena, dopo una tempesta, e l'aria fresca, pareggia la festa. Che bella cosa la riunata e sole. Mona du sole, più bella in me. Oh sole mio, sta in fronte a te. Oh sole mio, sta in fronte a te. Stanno fronti a te.
Oh my God! You're Italian?
No.
You're Indian. You're from Asia.
I'm half.
How do
English,
you?
so-
Your Italian is good.
Oh, thanks. It's
Your singing is even
sounded
better.
a bit funny in this room, didn't it?
Oh my God! This
It
is
sounded very fruity. It
unbelievable.
sounded
You want to hear
wonderful
yourself?
timbre. It had an oaky timbre. What's the album called and when is it out?
Wow.
And where can you get it?
Well, Easy Classics is out.
Easy Classics,
It's
ladies
on
and gents. Easy
Spotify.
Classics.
Oh
Easy
my God!
Classics.
Really?
On Spotify. Easy Classics by Ed Merzer on
Okay.
Spotify.
Yeah. When
And
is
there's
this? Okay. Do you know
And my
the?
new album.
You know the
Classic
Malarma
Facts.
Lagrima?
Huh? You know what?
Larma Lagrima.
No, I don't know that one. What is it?
Anyway, you don't need to. Your singing is fantastic.
Oh, I'm always
Well
open to new
done.
repertoire.
Well done.
It was
That's
the line. It was
top
the line.
Which one is yours?
I think that's E. Caterina.
That's just women's.
Caterina's.
Yeah.
This one.
Voilà.
Where are you just visiting England or you?
I live here for 18 years.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm French. But my mother is Moroccan and my father is from island of Réunion, which is an island in between Madagascar. La Réunion. It's between Madagascar and Mauritius.
I thought you were
It's
gonna
a
say
dot.
that. Yeah. Okay.
It's a little dot in the sea.
Mauritius, Madagascar is the big island
Yeah.
off to the
Yeah.
east of Africa.
Mauritius and La Réunion is a little tiny dot. It's 400 kilometers.
And did you live on that?
No, my father and my mother met in France after they immigrated in the 80s. They met when my dad was 18. My mother was 18. You know, they stayed 6 months together, had me, and that was it. Oh well, my dad was a handsome man.
Not anymore.
Oh, he's still very handsome.
Oh, okay.
And he's the one that I saw you had strawberry actually out there. He's the one that taught me to. We used to like pick up leaves and just smell it. And we're like, what's that? What's that? So I love nature. And we talk about recycling thing, which I wouldn't remember what the name of the gentleman that was watching things about. This is what we're doing in France. We are building houses with shipping containers that are not used anymore, and with gardens, wells, solar panels, like self-sufficient. Everything is basic material, so metal, polished concrete, and just try to show that you can live very well, beautiful, make a beautiful home with not much, and by being good to nature.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's very important, and also to learn how to become self-sufficient. Because if this happens again, I'll just say to myself, if I just want to have a place to retire, to go to when my kids are at uni, that I can survive on without having to go. And the surplus, I'll sell it at the market or whatever. I'll give it to the neighbor in exchange of a plumbing job or whatever. But I think there are lots of somebody actually told me 10 years ago that the world will just change. It will be a massive economic crisis, but we've heard that coming. And I said it's about bartering is coming back a bit. Like I've done that with my neighbor during lockdown. Like she will say, "Oh well,
Yeah, I'll cut your hair. If you
yeah, well I'll do
my
your
tip.
shoulders because you're on the computer. If you watch my kid for an hour, so I can have a bath or something. I think it's nice though, as opposed to this all, society. I think it's really the me kind of society. I think it's really you're getting really people who are really their roots is nature, and they really want to end up.
Do you think that the riots being sort of widespread in the whole world is partly because of coronavirus?
No, I think it was dormant. I mean, people are. What do we talk about the riots?
Yeah, I was thinking it's not.
No,
normal.
it's a
We don't
system.
normally
I
riot
think
the
people
whole-
feel violated somehow. Like it's like all these systems build up, and it's against our will because we don't need to consume that much, and we know that.
Yeah.
And then you kind of force or imposed on. You have to buy this if you want to go there. Now you've got to buy a mask if you want to go to the underground, which I understand it makes sense. However, I do believe that by the time this virus went to all the
You took a shot.
how do you call it?
Okay, so you know the number.
The small villages in Northampton or whatever.
Yeah.
We are young people in London.
Yeah, but
Where everybody had a thing.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's come and gone here, but
Simple math. No.
yeah. I was going to say something then. Yeah, I think everyone's gone crazy with this Black Lives Matter thing. Partly because we've been locked up for 3 months, and now the sun's come out.
Yeah, and also, but so the coronavirus is so important to keep the social distance, but then everybody's in the street. So it just doesn't. So my friend is in Washington DC tonight, and he just said to me, "Everybody's crazy. Everybody's wearing masks now. Walk in the pizzeria, walk in a restaurant, and nobody is. What's the logic?
Yeah.
There's no logic about anything in that thing.
Well, it's guessing. It's all guesswork, isn't it?
I understand, but then you have to think that we are in London. People are traveling lots and young. So by the time it gets to the remote areas and the small little places where that little 80-year-old person unfortunately got it, it had spread. It's everywhere, and it's just a weird. But I also think that it makes people think that I don't need much to be happy.
That's true.
I need a good weather, enough food, a roof, and the people I love. And I think it's either a lot of people are good either on the technology way, and the other have been going back to simple life. And I think this is where the gap is going to raven. Like I would say, actually, it's going to get recreated to really realizing they're happy with not much. And a simple life, not tech,
I think people. No. What the thing is, if you're young, everything seems normal. But it's only when you're older that you've got some perspective to go. Actually, you don't need that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm going to counter your argument with I don't think anything's going to change. Because there's always, one's born every minute. There's always another sucker to get hooked into whatever the latest craze is.
I think this is always going to remain, and I think the gap between the people who actually were like
hooked.
Yeah, it's going to be bigger and bigger. I think as opposed to have so many different societies and groups, it's going to be like two main.
Okay.
Tribes. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Well, so the world will be divided into two
and one ruler.
We have a question from the audience. Noli, we have a question from the audience for you.
Oh, really?
Julius Strazovicius asks, can Noli explain there is no logic in anything regarding the virus, etc.?
There is logic, but what's happening now, I think there's more... people are trying to save their ass more than anything else. I do think the logic with the flattening the curve, you need to do that. It's still a pandemic. But right now, I think that they know that pretty much everybody had it. It's a mess.
Everybody who's going to have it has had it.
Everybody has had it, mainly. Not everyone, but a lot of people have, I think. We're in London.
We don't know enough about the virus to know it's not going to morph into something.
So COVID-20.
There's not going
Yeah.
to be another.
Yeah, but
Well,
then,
yeah,
then,
do you know what-
then,
do you know
at
what's
the end of the day,
Because it existed in 2019.
Coronavirus.
There's
Yes.
nothing saying that
2019.
you are immune once
Yes.
you've had it. Nothing
It's the
goes
2019
oh,
patch.
I understand that, but at the end of the day, also,
It'd be like Barry Norman, wouldn't it? every year.
at the end
Yes,
of the
there'll be a
day,
new
you
version,
want
new
to. I'd rather risk my life living.
We'll be like
The
hibernation.
finally
here all together, and we without
But the logic, I think, is
Yeah, we
that
are-
I don't think the government is doing the right. They're not doing this to help you. They're doing it to save their ass. It's a different.
Come in.
Yeah, the government
Catherine,
are
one of the things we've
incapable
been
of
doing
saying,
over the
look,
past
is
few weeks
let's
with
be
the new
safe than
Athens
sorry.
is trying
Now
to
we
show
know more
people
about it. Everybody back to work.
Exactly.
deprogram
Well, they
from
can't
the
because now they're
fear
going to
of
get
bodies.
lawsuits and this and
We're
that.
all healthy
But
people. We've got
I
good
have a
immune
friend of
systems.
mine
like finally
try to get back his workers.
One sec.
I'm sorry.
No.
I just, as you were saying, as well, I also have a lot of what I can felt during all this period. They finally, or wherever, we're sitting here, we're speaking, nothing is
By the way,
happening with us.
we all know we social
And,
we've
somehow
got-
the people is they try to afraid or whatever they've got immune or there's something that they actually need to do, and they just relax, trying to do the normal things and. Of course, there's a lot of opinions. Of course, it was. I had the friends who got this
Paranoia.
virus and
Oh,
Russia.
you
a lot.
actually had the
It's
virus.
actually, I don't have friends here in London who actually had this virus it's through somebody, but in Moscow it's like a lot here, and it wasn't so terrible. So it's like you can go through this. So the truth is shown that it's the virus which is actually happened, and when we actually go through of that, but do you know about the situation when you're afraid a lot that your immune system is going down?
Yes.
Of course.
And then-
This is more effective.
And if you don't mix with people, your immune system taps out more.
You better
So
risk
what
it.
we're doing here, we're all relatively healthy people with a relatively
And the
functioning
brain
immune
is
system.
also about to raise the immune. It's when you are not afraid. It's
Contact with
actually-
people allows your biome to interact with their biome to exchange antibodies. And so what we've been seeing recently is people shut in their homes who have not been able to exchange any antibodies, which gives them more of a chance if they do
And
emerge
do you
to
know that
actually
to wear
get
the
a
gloves
bad
and
result.
the
Masks.
masks
Not
wearing
is,
anything.
put
No,
an
no,
immune
coronavirus.
system down. You always need to communicate with microbes. Around.
Yes, yeah, you've got to exchange
In
microbes
France,
with
we
people.
drop a lollipop, we put it back in our mouth, just because it builds your immune system. You grow up in, you touch everything. We
If you're going to see your relatives in the country right now, if you've been in the city and if you're going to see your relatives in the country, it's wise to isolate for a while, because what you will have, if you've not been totally paranoid, is you will have met at least some people over recent weeks and months, and then you will have gained some city level immunity, some exchange of microbiome with people around you. And if you do then expose people who have been like a small town in the country or a village, they might have more of an issue now.
Absolutely, yes.
But if you've been in the city and if you're mixing with mainly people in the city, you don't have a family to go to in the country, then it's better to be around people who are young and have healthy immune systems to then do that microbial exchange, as you say. And as you say, don't over OCD yourself. OCD people aren't very healthy.
I used to have a friend who used to wash her hands and put gloves, and this was way before coronavirus, we're talking 15 years ago, working in Westfield. And she would put gloves, then wash her carrots, put them in a washed container, and then put gloves to eat her carrots, because I'm touching so many people. I said, but this is exactly the point. The more you touch the people right now, it's just not
Do you know that the homeless people have their high immune system?
Of course they do.
Yes.
They touch
Because
course.
they
Shit
actually
every day.
pull into the whole
Of course.
world.
I
They're
know
more
it's
New Athens. You can see that when you, what's the thing that's come up just there? In the top of the window. It says,
one more follower.
so
probably Russians started.
no, we've got censorship
Okay, we're
from
getting
Mark
into
Zuckerberg,
France.
everyone. He's like giving us a little warning. So yeah, if you look at literature on viruses, as we're looking at with some of our medical contacts here at the New Athens, it's unclear causation and correlation with viruses. It's unclear whether viruses are something which come into your body as a pathogen, like bacteria from the external world, or whether what you see as virus is a reaction in your body to some kind of pathogen, and your cells are sloughing out this RNA, these little chips of DNA, which are what we see as viruses. So it's unclear whether the virus is causing the problem or is actually your body fighting off the problem. In the same way that when you get a fever, it's your body fighting off. It's not the problem
going on
itself.
when all of you sitting right now and thinking, and you know the best way is just to make the breathe inside, and everything will be solved. You know, it's like as more you relax, the more you trust it, and as everything, it seems like it's such a lot of things, and when you're building, like you're afraid and everything. So just to do some general things to save yourself by the discipline.
Yeah, just be disciplined, be clean.
What do you think
more
about
relaxed.
toilet paper, Rush? I come from my family is half Moroccan, so we do wash. We have a shower.
Public advertisement.
When I saw it, everybody was
Public
ready to buy toilet. In
advertisement.
our family, when you go to the bathroom, you go have a shower.
Yes.
This is
Yeah, so do I. That's how I grew up.
whatever the things,
You know.
whatever.
You always have a shower before you get back in your clothes.
Normally, you don't have the shower before you go to the
No,
bathroom
not
anyway.
always. Maybe
Yeah.
somebody
That's how we do it.
You know.
But we have like things. So when
you
I
have,
see
you have a
everybody,
douche, you have like a,
the
bidet.
the bidets,
Yes.
yeah. So when I see everybody rushing to buy toilet paper, I just think it's
yeah.
like buying to buy bleach, running, and then you actually think as a percent of the population, I will never think the way I think.
So we should learn from
And
the
then you
Bebe,
have a
everyone. We should learn from the North African Massive that instead of hoarding toilet paper, get a hose that connects to your system and your tap,
It's way cheaper.
and a douche, a douche bidet, and then you've got as long as you have a water supply,
And you
don't need the toilet.
And you never risk to get
I think it's the most
toilet paper
practical,
leaf
so it's
stuck
the
in your
best.
bum.
Yeah, and then always take a shower afterwards. Yeah, it's just wise.
I
Don't get back
agree.
in your place.
There you go. This happens sometime. Where are you going?
Needs must.
Yeah, we should discuss a little bit about it. I think, yeah. So.
I like your radio shirt and I love the Russian dolls.
The Matryoshka
Is it
Putin.
Putin?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
my
Putin
God.
Matryoshka.
Who told me about Putin yesterday? Somebody told me that. I read a story about how Putin,
Yeah, so-
Putin
so-
got in power.
So yeah, Medvedev lives
How we got
inside
in
Putin.
which was really. Wait, was it Yeltsin who was before him?
Yes. So Medvedev lives
I don't
inside
know.
Putin. It's like this is his cadet. This is his deputy. He was president. He was prime minister. He was president. He was prime minister.
Was Yeltsin the last president of Russia?
Yeah, we
before?
need to find you. Maybe he's inside here. You know?
Let's put it. Look,
Dan.
let's put on the
Dan,
perfect
was
position.
Boris Yeltsin the president before Putin?
Yes.
So
Did he have a birthmark on his
who?
head? Did he have a birthmark?
That's Gorbachev, no?
That's Gorbachev. He now
He was
advertises
shot.
Louis Vuitton luggage in limousines.
Did
He's
you know,
gone quite.
you know
He's
what I
gone quite deep
saw
state.
the story not so long ago,
Yeah.
which is like when they was waiting when the voting was about.
Whose home is this?
This is Oliver's.
Oh, is it?
Moi.
Very
Yeah,
nice. Thank you for
that's-
having
that's-
us. Having me. I know.
My
Oh,
pleasure.
thank you. It's really cool. Really cool.
Okay, so we have a question from Honorata, friend of this great friend of the show. She showed us that we went viral a couple of weeks ago for the first time, where we had like third party sharing with nobody who knows anybody who was sharing our show.
Oh.
And so she asks, "I'd like to hear your views on Prince Andrew Epstein scandal and anonymous hacking data regarding the royal family and Diana's death."
Huh.
Topical of the moment. So,
You want to start with Epstein? Oh my
okay,
God.
yeah,
What?
no, so okay.
Did you know he bought 3 kids from a French family of the age of 12, and they did sell them, and they went pick up a private plane, and then so we watched the documentary.
And took them to Little St James's.
A French family,
Yes.
12 years old, sold their children.
Sold their children.
Yeah, right.
Who did that?
And I'm French.
So Epstein
Just say
bought
this,
3 French
kids for his
from a
birthday,
family
12 years old.
for his birthday
For his birthday, they were flown to
to
his
Little St
island.
James's. Yeah.
12 years old.
Oh
My
God.
children are 8 and 15. They are, don't
I
even.
know, I know.
I mean,
Is
my
that-
15
is
ones
that
does
definitely
the.
true?
It is.
So this was in
Oh,
the
it
recent
is.
Netflix
Michael Jackson
documentary.
did it. Hamstein
It
did
was on
it.
Netflix.
They all did it.
This is in the recent Netflix documentary.
It is, but it's a very.
We need to do
It is.
I think we may end up doing a review of this and then cross-fertilizing it with
With
some of the other stuff
pedophilia,
we've been
with women or people or children who are being abused, it's always the same. It's very easy to know whether they told the truth or not, because they say the same thing. I trusted a person, I love, and they feel guilty to have loved that person and trusted that person.
Right.
And they never say I want money, or
It's the
they say,
same emotional mechanics in
and
play.
you realize that when you speak to a lot of people who have suffered that, is that they say the same thing. And I don't want him to pay for it. I just wanted to admit it.
Yeah.
And Einstein was
most hard to
what
do.
about Prince Andrew?
Yes, so he thought
Should be
he thought
beheaded.
that his I mean it's fine. We're a free speech zone. We're a free speech zone. So say what you think. No. So we have one vote. We have one vote for guillotine. For, like
okay, bring back the guillotine.
So you're it's Papillon. You know, back to the prison island. So Prince Andrew appeared on Newsnight late last year, and he thought he was exonerating himself from his connection with Epstein by explaining his friendship and why after Epstein was released from jail that he had went back and was not being blackmailed but just went to see a friend to tell the friend
I don't think
that
he's a
he was no
pedophile.
longer going to be his friend.
I don't think he's a pedophile. I think
You don't think Andrew's a pedophile?
I don't think he is. I think Epstein was. I don't think Andrew is a pedophile. I think he likes to. Every man likes to have a 17 years old, as opposed to. I mean, you are in France. The majority sexually is 15.
Okay.
Which I've now realized. Now I've got children. It's not right.
You got boys. So would you not let your boys?
My 15 years old.
A 15-year-old age of majority.
Well, if he wants to do it, I mean, I'm sure he doesn't need me for that. He's already started, I guess. But I think 15 for a child is they are still. I mean, I see my child is still a baby, but he's a boy.
Yeah.
Women are different, and we.
What about you when you were 15? How did you feel?
Well, I've got a different story because it happened to me when I was 3, 8, and 15. No, you don't have to be sorry. It is a fact. But this is exactly what I know actually what I'm talking about. Is that if those girls, if they never believed anything like that, would have no idea of what sex is like. But if you have lived this as a young person, you kind of become a pervert. Somehow, but in a good way.
We see a notion throughout history and present that the richer you are, the more exceptional experiences become boring, and the more if you can go on holiday to any place.
Plato, he used to screw young boys.
If you look at the academy, there's a corruption that comes from just wealth. So if you can go anywhere on holiday any day, you don't need to be at home. If you can do any job you want, if you can buy any company you want, if you can fire all the people at it, if you're
exceptionally wealthy, then you're going to have your view of the world is going to be different. If you're the
you can get anything you want because
the thing is that that ordinary experiences get boring. So something that somebody else would save up for, both in terms of their energy and in terms of their money, for you is always available. You can drink any drink, you can have any meal, you can go to any city, you can meet any person.
It's like
because you
do
get your assistant
drugs.
to call.
The more you do
you
the
can
drugs,
take any drug.
Exactly.
And so maybe what we see is the extreme rich corrupt themselves because they need more. They need an exceptional experience. That's where you see the darkness coming. That's where you see the sexual corruption, the violence, the pedophilia.
So was the elite, but so was the elite.
Yes. I'm not saying it's a modern phenomenon.
It's always been like this.
Current reality.
And it's not going to change, unfortunately, because when you see that a family sell their kids 12 years old to get fucked by Einstein, and then they went back. I can't fathom it. I can't.
You can't imagine.
I couldn't sell my children to be raped.
No.
I can't quite fathom it.
Well,
how do you get such drop cash?
As Lorenzo was saying, exceptionally rich people have exceptionally
means, and then
but no, if you're exceptionally poor or exceptionally,
then you think, okay, maybe it's going to be one night, and he's offering me 300. I know. Let's say even a million, 2, 3, 30, 100. Your kids are going to be fucked up, excuse my French, the rest of their life. You will never repair that. What you take the innocence, and especially one thing about children, is that nobody's allowed to take their innocence. You know,
Yeah.
It's the one thing about children.
It's there.
Kids are innocent. They're innocent.
Well, I
You
don't know, they're
cannot
pretty horrible
take that.
in some ways.
And how
And it's still it's even worse.
How's about if the child is innocent and that is what is a lot is going on around, and it's take you like attention and influence, and actually, how about I was thinking how is sometimes it's scary to grown up children here is such a lot of things around that the child can get this
Influence.
Yes, it's a lot of influence,
It's
and
usually
actually,
So you've kept your kids in Muswell Hill in North London, which is a very leafy, very beautiful part of town with very very nice
so
people.
nice, yeah.
And it's on a hill. There's
And
no
that's
public.
why
There's no
strong
public
wine and
transport
stuff, and
access.
No.
There's no
It's
tube
a bubble.
train. There's no
Yeah.
tube train in Muswell
It's a
Hill.
bubble.
There's no. There's
it's
no
amazing.
overground train. There's no. There's no suburban train.
We
You get buses
look
down the
upon
hill.
London.
Yes.
so they're not
In
using
majestic
this. Or,
sequestration.
they're not using this. Or,
No, it's not. There's no Muswell Hill is a
Yes,
hill.
we were there the other day.
I
Why
know
is it called
section.
that? Because people
It's Crouch is
Crouch,
Yeah.
That's not quite good. I should move
Yes.
there, actually.
We were there the other day. So a very
Big
good friend of the show,
culture.
Pato, is there. I showed you we were there the other day. It's not far, and then we have like a great Baptist hall with art, which we must go to for like an away day.
Sorry. This is une pièce, c'est une même. Je me fous du monde entier. I can't sing. You should sing with You sing.
That's fine.
Nice.
We'll find
the
the-
best spontaneous. You can continue
What's
just
the-
like
what is it
what
called?
is
What is it
happening?
called?
Yeah.
Quand on a da-da-da, What's the song? What's the name of it? Quand on a
Forza de
Peu
Messina.
importe si tu m'aimes, je me fais quand on a que l'amour en partage. Shit, what's the title of it?
Good.
Da-da-da. Importe, it's
Give it the.
Hymne à l'amour.
Give
Oh, I don't know
it
this.
the. Give it
Madame Moore, I
the
think.
I
start.
don't actually
Give it the
know.
start.
L'hymne à l'amour.
I actually don't know this aria. Sorry.
Edith Piaf, l'hymne à l'amour.
You'll
I
have,
like this
you'll
whole
have to
Where's that?
I can sing after.
You changed now.
Oh, just sing.
You know what I like? I'm a
Yes.
My favorite.
You are?
Yes.
I'm a queen. That's a good
I'm
one.
a lady. What the hell is going on? Oh, I like that.
Oh, me too.
but the radio.
How's this? This is
Yeah,
my
yeah,
teenage
yeah,
I
yeah.
love it.
Yeah, I like that.
Sorry,
And
okay. Do you put the lyrics? Come on.
You can sing. Well, I
No,
don't,
I can't
for some
sing.
reason
Oh, you
I don't
can-
know it.
I can sing. I just like singing.
I can little bit help you, but we need to have the words.
Oh, this.
Okay,
Okay,
here we
maybe
go. We
oh,
have
yeah.
the lyrics.
Oh my God.
Bigger.
Yeah, very much bigger.
Yeah,
Very
Hang on,
Can
put-
look you in the eyes.
yeah, well-
This is so
I
good.
will do
Okay.
a bit like the back vocal.
Okay, here we go.
Oh
Here
yeah.
we go. Okay, can we
Ready?
have some live
So
streaming?
now,
Hang on.
Wait, come back.
I need the. What? Just you keep talking
Ah,
amongst yourselves. I'll
Would you
find-
like the
was
partition?
doing good last time. Sorry about
there's
that.
no
I mixed
internet.
up with that girl with the guitar.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
I've
Christopher.
got
She's
I've
like
just
the
brief
algorithm.
But he
version
was
on my
doing
phone.
the last time
You want
he
that?
was singing.
I was.
No?
I can't
Okay, he didn't. Okay,
Sorry.
forever.
So, self-discipline, everyone. We're going for. We're going to self-discipline with creeps now.
Here we go. Yeah, I've got it.
It's
We got
about
it.
discipline.
Aren't we all-
opposite,
Aren't
yeah.
we all creeps?
Oh, here we go.
I know.
And then we get a bit louder.
Okay.
One step from discipline
So
to
G
the
G
creep.
G G G G G.
Oh, can
I'm learning piano at the moment.
Yes. Oh yes, I saw.
Yes.
Can look you in the eyes. You're just like an angel. Your skin makes me cry. I float like a feather in a beautiful world. This is gonna go bad. I wish I was special. Come on, sing.
You're
so fucking special. I gotta do it now. You're a queen. I'm a widow. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. wanna have control. I want that party. It's going faster. I want that soul. I want you to notice. Even better is
you're so fucking special. I wish I was special. But I'm crazy. I'm a widow. Whatever you do, I don't belong here. Oh, oh, she's running out the door. She's running out. She run, run, run,
well done. That is beautiful. Wow.
Oh, sorry.
You got it.
Whatever you want.
Whenever you
So
want.
fucking special. I wish I was
So
special.
special.
But I'm a I'm a widow. What am I doing here? I don't belong here. I don't belong here.
Wow, this is so cool. Love it.
Right.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys.
And we're back to 7. It was down to 5. To 7. I'm watching.
We got some viewers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I thought
So,
someone
does it
might
mean
smile.
five?
There's more people watching this than there are here.
That's always the objective.
It's not us, is it?
Yeah, you know, yeah.
It's just all the smartphone devices. No. So we're creeps. We're here in the bunker, and we're here for you, people.
We said leopard.
It's hard to stop when you start.
Oh, I know. I'm trying to learn leopard jam, so I'm dyslexic, so my piano teacher put the notes, then letter, then colors.
Oh, are you synesthetic? Are you synesthete?
So I need to.
Can you
when I see
smell-
the color, I
Can you
can.
smell middle C? Can you smell middle C? Can you
Okay,
see like?
No, I can see by color. So
Yes.
I'm
So synesthete, you've got synesthesia.
so now I can see with colors. It's pretty much
You can.
with the
Really?
colors I can play. With the just the notes, they would fly away. They would
Okay,
mix.
the reading music is like too much
I have
cognition.
the same with books,
Yes.
which means I
Can you listen to books on
I
tape?
no
So
I
you're
put
telling
it-
me you've got
I
a
read it
multicolored
with a ruler.
piano? You're telling
No,
me
I have
got a
the
piano?
notes. All my
Alright.
partitions are made with colors. I'll show you.
You mean
I've
you've got a
I'll show
piano
you.
with painted keys?
No, I don't. I
Is
can
there
I
like
can
a
find the
legend
keys when
above?
I see the I can find
And
the
they're
key.
coloured on the legend.
I'll show you the music sheet. Which is this for me. This is no sorry. Email Iliana.
I was going to do some. I brought a piece of perspex and do a lot of perspex drawing.
Oh yeah, so we can do like tracings
Okay,
and so
so
on.
this is my piano
Right,
teacher. So
do
she
it.
sent me
The,
the.
we probably need to do the Wi-Fi. This is
Ah,
where I'm missing with
yes.
the Wi-Fi. at the moment.
Ah, do you have the?
Yeah,
I've got Wi-Fi.
Oh,
code?
we got
I've
the.
got
Did
it.
we take the picture of the Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Ah,
Yes,
yeah,
we got the
one sec.
Wi-Fi.
Oh,
Okay,
brilliant.
so let's let these guys do the Wi-Fi. So, one thing to
It's a
note.
little bit complicated.
So we've
When I-
had some great interaction here tonight from all our guests: Nerly, Ed, Ekaterina, Elizabeth, Dan, and of course our host
Seven.
Nelken from Morning to Media.
Oh, it was a lovely. It's
So we've
pleasure.
discussed a lot of stuff
I'm sorry,
from
I'm quite slow.
geopolitics
That's all right.
through to
Just
history,
right.
through to current affairs,
Capital
through to
T.
people making their
Small V.
own creep villages inside cities in America. So where are we
I
at?
think.
We in the next episode, which will be over the
You're going to
weekend,
explain this
we'll be
diagram.
explaining the COVID 5G diagram, which I'll leave in the show notes, and actually we'll open up a discussion about this on the New Athens Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/the New Athens. And so we'll then be relating the COVID 5G pandemic and the issues with health that we're experiencing with then the Maoist revolution that we're experiencing now out of America and coming to the West, which is destroying our history and seeking to then take the destruction of monuments and the destruction of people and the destruction of
Have they destroyed any more monuments?
Yeah, they're trying to put them in museums now.
What do you think about that?
So we've had questions throughout the week and throughout the evening to address the monument, the iconoclasm issue. One of the interesting things which we noted throughout the week is that there's been a hit list published by the Maoist Revolution, anarchist revolutionaries, about which monuments they're trying to target at the moment. And funnily enough, one of them is Oliver Cromwell, who himself was an iconoclast. He himself destroyed a whole lot of monuments in the English Revolution.
The same happened to Robespierre, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. So what we have is the revolution eating itself. And as Edit is correctly identified, what we're going to look at in the next episode is a series of revolutions from the English Revolution with Cromwell, sometimes called the English Civil War, through to the French Revolution in 1789 and the Committee for Public Safety and Robespierre, who then created the Red Terror and guillotined everybody, and then he was guillotined himself. The revolution eating itself is a theme. There's this Ouroboros, this snake eating its own tail. It's something we're going to look at the next episode of the weekend, and we're going to have all the resources for you ready to really do a deep dive into how that series of revolutions from the English Revolution through the American Revolution, which is relatively successful, and then the French Revolution with the Red Terror, and then the Bolshevik Revolution in October 1917 with the destruction of the Mensheviks, and then we'll be moving through to the Chinese Maoist Revolution. The key to this whole crisis is the Maoist Revolution in 1949 and the Cultural Revolution that came out of it, which was a matter of destroying ancient Confucian monuments, destroying people, destroying everyone who memorized or had knowledge of the ancient culture of China. And so what they wanted to do is they always wanted to create a year zero. And so 2020 is either going to be a year zero of a civilization focused on death, or a continuation of civilization that existed for 1,000 years with the art of people like Ed Mirza, who have a communion with thousands of years of a communion of thousands of years of artists and thinkers and doers, who from Gilgamesh onwards, as we featured on our show 2 shows ago, looking at some of Ed's writings, we're taking more of a deep dive into the educational platform, the New Athens Blockchain University, which then is going to be publicizing and commenting and then producing videos and other kind of documentary content around Ed's program for reading and for listening to books on tape. So we're going to do a deeper dive on that, exactly how we create a knowledge-backed cryptocurrency, use blockchain technology to create a new educational reality in the democratic tech platform that we're creating together
about what? About
Mao's revolution in America.
About Mao's revolution,
like the Cultural Revolution in America.
Oh, the riots.
So create knocking down monuments as a means of erasing history.
Well, I think it may be partly connected with coronavirus. That people sort of feel somehow a little bit more connected, and so they've gone and made these protests. But you can't jump to conclusions. Not everyone in the police force is racist. Not all police officers are terrible people. Some of them might be. Some of them might be sometimes, and not other times. And
what's been quite astonishing is a narrative of police brutality, which has a whole political spectrum on side, with the idea that the police should not be given impunity to kill those who they should otherwise arrest, who they should otherwise detain. That narrative, that broad coalition of like opposition to police brutality, that opposition to harming citizens in the pursuit of law, has been now sacrificed by this Maoist revolution in favor of saying only one set of victims of police brutality have any standing in when they're harmed or killed by these actions, by these unlawful actions. And so what is really key to understand here is that there is a police brutality issue that stands behind this, which we can all get behind. Like, there's no reason we shouldn't be applying the common law, applying civil liberties, applying the American Constitution, applying our rights as free men on land in this country to all of our interactions between the state and the citizen. And the citizen should be king, and the citizen should be seeing the police as public servants, and so on. And this is all a matter of civil liberties defense. But we've now, in this Maoist revolution debate, have sacrificed that broad coalition against police brutality for a narrow, very destructive debate about then tearing down history, when actually there's a great argument from many people on all sides of the political spectrum to keep historical monuments, even as a mark of what has been done wrong in the past, and so that we remember the atrocities that have happened in the past with full cognizance.
We're going to do the jingle.
And now we have a jingle.
Oh, hang on, not just yet.
Comedic music. And now it's very hard to do a melody and a harmony without words that actually has a comic function. So what Oliver's made for a very ungrateful set of clients was this wonderful jingle.
Thank you, everybody.
Here we
This is
go.
your jingle. Cool.
Ronza, tap, tap.
Thank you so much for tuning into the New Athens live stream in the bunker tonight.
You know what the
We've
song
had-
is? It's a French song. Huh? Moi j'ai dit dans le journal, c'est Brigitte Bardot.
C'est Brigitte Bardot.
Yeah.
Et Dieu créa la femme. Et Dieu créa les femmes.
Moi j'ai dit. Moi j'ai dit dans la campagne. I don't know the lyrics.
We've recovered, people. We have life, we have love, we have freedom. Let's keep it and let's remember it. I'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in. Come on the Facebook group New Athens, and we'll have a chat about this diagram and all the things.
How do you promote that?
Boom.
I can see that.